In this video, you will learn how to facilitate a meeting, tips to boost attendee participation, and how to end a meeting. Remember, there are 4 principles to an effective meeting: preparation, facilitation, participation, and follow-up. You are now in the facilitation phase.
So you've made it. You're actually at your meeting. You've done all the preparation. You made sure the right people are there. So for me, I usually tell my meeting facilitators, when you start a meeting, always make sure you cover the ground rules. Gentle reminders. I usually like to include this at the top of my, agenda page in Confluence. I say, here are the 3 or 4 things that we agree to follow. That, we're not going to talk over each other. We're going to make sure we're going to raise our hands if we want to say something. These are little things that, again, as a quick reminder, allow people to, again, become conscious of it and realize that, all right, this is how we act when we're together. So again, always make sure you cover those ground rules. To me, each meeting needs a scribe. Honestly, it's difficult for me to take notes and facilitate at the same time. This is also a very clever way to help bring in participation from the people in the room. Find someone who can help you take notes. Another clever thing to do is, let's say you have one of those individuals in your meeting that really likes to kind of take the stage. Maybe they're always kind of breaking your ground rules. A good way to kind of get them engaged in a positive way is ask them to be the note taker. Have them be engaged in the whole flow of the meeting by being that note taker. And it's one of the things that will help kind of keep them focused on something that's adding value to that meeting. Be the facilitator. This means that in the conversation, make sure you're putting that facilitator hat on and not necessarily jumping into the content. A lot of times a facilitator can get themselves kind of deep into a conversation, and then all of a sudden 15, 20, 30 minutes goes by because they're so deep in the conversation that they forgot to pay attention to the clock. If you find that you're in a topic that you need to engage with, actually ask your group, I need someone to play facilitator for the next topic because I need to engage in that. Get someone to be that timekeeper, that person who's going to keep you focused. It's huge because it'll also, again, show that you respect people's time and want to get to all the topics. Make sure you know when to break the rules. I say this because one of the things that you've probably seen in meetings is you get a facilitator who is running a meeting by the book. When something maybe truly more pressing comes up and says, nope, we got to keep to our schedule. Knowing when to break the rules and how to ask the team permission to break the rules is key. Be willing to kind of sense and adapt as you go. Again, use your rules as your guide, but don't be so rigid in those that all of a sudden you lead people in the end to still feel like we didn't cover the right thing. Some of my best meetings have come out in the end where they said, you know what? I'm glad we switched to that topic because we needed to at that point. So just a few things to keep in mind as you're facilitating. It's your responsibility to be a good listener. Be aware of the conversation going on and help advance the discussion when needed. Know how to draw your participants back in if things start to wander a bit, and be mindful of the topics and time just to make sure everything stays on track.
Going back to the 4 principles, those are some tips for better facilitation. Next, let's move to participation. How do you ensure your meetings are focused, engaging, and inclusive for everyone involved?
A lot of times when you get into a meeting, it can feel kind of like the wild, wild west. Someone's talking here, things are happening there. Well, as a facilitator, it is your job to help kind of maintain the flow of the meeting, but at the same time, create an environment where everyone feels like they can talk. So for me, I'm a big fan of Atlassian's team playbook play called Inclusive Meetings. And it's all about how do we set ground rules for our meetings? And these are rules in terms of how do we want to collaborate? You might have examples like, hey, we're going to raise our hand when we want to speak, or for every topic, we're going to hold questions until the end of that topic. As a facilitator, you are accountable and responsible for creating an inclusive environment in your meeting so that everyone feels like they can contribute. Look for feedback afterwards to determine whether or not in that meeting, everybody felt like they could get a voice in. Use your intuition. Sometimes you can see that, hey, we've got a couple people that are always quiet. Kind of look and say, what can I do to change my environment to help make meetings better in the future? My biggest recommendation to help keep attendees engaged is 1, use time boxes in your agenda, and 2, follow those time boxes. Keeping attendees engaged is going to come back to honoring their time, saying this is our agenda, these are what we're going to talk about, and this is when we're going to talk about it. That's really important to help keep participants engaged. Can't tell you how many times I get into a meeting and we have 10 minutes on a topic and I look at my watch and 20 minutes have gone by and we're still on that topic. For me, I feel that that facilitator isn't doing their job. And I'm like, apparently the rest of these topics don't matter. Final tip for keeping people engaged in a meeting, use the power of a parking lot. Many times we get into meetings and we find ourselves derailing a topic a little bit with a new topic. Well, as a facilitator, go in there and say, hey, that's a great topic. Let's add it to our parking lot. If we have time, maybe you've set aside time at the end of your agenda for other topics, or you need to set up a separate meeting. This allows, again, participants to feel that you value their time and you want them to get to the outcomes that they originally intended to get to in that meeting. When it comes time to end the meeting, maybe you're in the last 5 minutes of it. There's nothing worse than getting to the end of a meeting where you're midway through a conversation and now you're just having to leave. I always want to make sure I save 5 or 10 minutes on that agenda to kind of close out the meeting. Honor that time box. Make sure that you have that 5 to 10 minutes to review a couple things. Make sure you review the goal of the meeting. Did we accomplish this? I actually like to ask my participants, Roman vote, up or down with your thumbs. Did we hit the outcome? Did we get to the place we wanted to get to? Also, make sure you go back and look at your action items. Do we have owners assigned to them? Do we have due dates on those? Have people agreed to take those on? Make sure you take care of those so that way people leaving say, cool, the things that we need help with, they're going to get done. And then finally, make sure you go back and look at the decisions you've made as well. Make sure you say, hey, in this meeting, we made the decisions on A, B, and C. Just as a reminder to the group that says, cool, these are the things that we decided. This also will help solidify for your participants that, hey, we actually got some value out of this meeting. We actually were able to get from A to B, which is more than maybe we've gotten to in the past.